Welcome to the Retro Blood.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Retro Blood as we continue this 1980s/1990s talk about little creatures that will haunt the space, that will haunt your nightmares, that will destroy your ships, that are very similar to Star Wars and Aliens for some reason. And this is the end of our talk, talking about Critters, 1992 version of Critters on here. That's right. If y'all like Star Wars ripoff movies, if y'all like an all-star cast, including Chucky and that girl that was on American Horror Story, who was like royalty, if y'all like inside an alien spaceship getting destroyed by digital creatures, then this is the review for you. Because I'm doing a solo show today, talking all about Critters 4. 1992 Critters 4. That's right, we're at the end of the franchise, brother. And boy, what a franchise has been so far. Now, obviously, you know, me and Allison, so right off the bat, you know, reason Allison's not on here, we had a couple weather issues. Obviously, a lot of the, America is going through a lot of weather issues in all types of states. Obviously, we live here in North Carolina. He had a lot of power issues with his particular house, so we couldn't jump on our scheduled time. And I actually was lucky. I'm actually doing a little traveling. I was actually out here in Florida, where it hasn't been so bad. So, but we still wanted to give you all an episode. I will tell you at the end of this episode what we got going on for March. For February. My bad. I'm getting ahead of myself. What we got for February. It should be a very fun one. If y'all have been listening to our show for a little while, you got an idea of what's happening in February. But, you know, I've done these solo shows before, so we're going to get hit up into again. I probably won't do too much on our history segment. We'll save that for next week. But I will give some quick thoughts. So, Critters 4, man, like, so the franchise, obviously it started off, pretty home base. You know, we have the old aliens coming to Earth and terrorizing the Earth and getting a little small Southern family. You know, we saw the evolution of Charles throughout the series of him going through a simple-minded town drunk into a bounty hunter, into a sheriff, into a crazy man, I guess, that he was on here. So we've seen a lot of evolutions of the characters through here. This particular Critters movie is like when everything is in space now. You know what I mean? Like this is the part of the 90s where there's like two things going on in the 90s to me. The first one is like, this is the decade of sequels. If your movie was a fucking hit in the 70s or the 80s, then brother, we're going to be making 1,000 more just to pump at you. Some of them good, some of them not so good. All right. And this is also the decade of let's put everybody in space. All right. Hellraiser, you're getting to space, brother. All right. Leprechaun, get up in there. All right. We don't want to see you down in here on the lonely Earth. Who cares about the lonely Earth anymore? We want space. All right. So Critters is not, so much different, but with Critters, I think it kind of like works a little bit because, when we saw the first one, they came from space. It was the Krites kidnapped the whole spaceship and they were trying to find their feeding land. If they just so happened to land on Earth, well, we have Ugg. Was it Ugg and Lug or something? I don't know. I just remember the big tit girl. They would go find them out there in the Earth, the bounty hunters and stuff. So this one's a lot different. This one is kind of like. So this one was when we talked about it last week. They filmed number 3 and number 4 at the same time. So right when number 3 wrapped up production, they went right into number 4. All right. Which is interesting about this part is they used the same set that they did for number 3 for number 4. They just changed the set to make it look like it's all done on a spaceship, which I love. All right. I don't know about all you guys out there. You guys can comment below, if you want to, but I love the 90s, like sci-fi space look. I think it looks, because, nowadays we get all the fucking crisp and clean CGI. You know what I mean? Get the A, and then the stream is going to be all AI anyway. But now we get the CGI. Everything looks all crisp and clean. I like that shit looking rugged, man. You know what I mean? Like, in the 90s, we'll get Aliens. I believe we get Aliens 3 in the 90s. They have a pretty cool looking set for them. There's just a lot of shows like that came out around like the 90s that have really cool like sci-fi looking sets. I just think it's like it's kind of like one of those nostalgia things for myself. I don't necessarily love every horror icon going into space, but the actual set design and how they look is kind of like, I think it's kind of neat. I think it looks pretty cool. So when it comes to the set design in this movie, I thought it was very well done on that end. So a couple things about the film. Let me pull up my notes here. It came out through home video. That's right. Remember, because we talked about this month where Critters 2 was the last movie to get a theater release. All this number 3 and number 4 went to the New Line home video release. And we talked about that last week with New Line home video. That's pretty much New Line they used to rent out a lot of their movies and stuff when they were going on VHS. They would rent them out to different home video companies to kind of produce them and marketing, but they saw the value in the that you get more off your money if you own your own studio doing it. So this is like a couple of the first films, Critters 3 and Critters 4, that actually came from New Line home video department itself. We see that a lot nowadays, mostly just streaming. Like you'll have like Netflix premiere shows. You'll have like Prime movies. Specifically made for that platform itself. So not only are they funding the movie, but they're also like producing it and marketing it as well too. So instead of going through like a third party company and getting all that done. So cool stuff happening around here. Let's see. So yeah, so we got October 14th, 1992 was the supposed release date. Okay. We got a couple other things. I don't want to talk about this. So this is what it says. It says Critters 4 was released on VHS on September 1st, 1998 by New Line Home Entertainment. I believe that date was a little wrong. I believe it got released on October 1st. So October 14th, 1992. Let me pull up my notes over here. So couple of trivias when it comes to the Critters 4. So this one was directed by Rupert Harvey. All right, and it did have the screenplay, just like Critters 3 did, by David J. Sco, which is credited for The Crow and a bunch of other fantastic movies that are way more intense than this Critter series are. But hey, you got to get the work where you can find the work, brother. All right. So pretty cool stuff on that. Yeah, we talked a little bit about what he did. He did Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, The Crow, The Hills Run Red. I mean, you name it, man. This guy has done all kinds of great screenplays on some pretty well-perceived movies. So they're back doing this one as well, too. Some of the trivia on it is pretty fun. So we have all external space scenes and many sets are lifted from one of the Don Keith Hooper's earlier films, Android. All right. So Android, 1982, they took a lot of the space scenes and the set designs and stuff from that movie. And of course, Don Keith Hooper's, he's the one that plays Charlie, of course. And this is actually the first Critter movie where Don Keith Hooper is the highest billed actor of the particular movie. So there you go, brother. Like he was, I would say he was a pretty big character for the first movie, but it's not like he was like super featured. Like, in the first movie, he was like the town drunk guy who was like, oh, aliens exist and everything. Like, like we always have like the old warning guy in horror movies. Like, oh, this is going to happen. I swear it's going to happen, guys. But nobody ever believes him. That was basically Charlie's character until like, obviously the second movie, he kind of came between the bounty hunters. And then, during the third movie, he was kind of like an established, character by then. So, but in this movie, they really kind of made it for like him is like, he's like the OG of the franchise. Besides Terrence on here as well too. I did like the Terrence heel turn, as we say in wrestling, what he did at the end of this movie, but we'll talk about that soon. All right. So, this one was, like I said before, it was filmed with Critters 3 from February 1991 until July 1991. Critters 4 is the only Critters movie where the critters are unable to shoot poison darts at their victims. So none of that. They didn't really do too much in this film. They mostly just like kind of like bit everybody and like showed up. They actually looked a lot bigger in this movie than they did in previous movies. Besides the first one where we had that huge one that just never was explained later on of how it got that huge or nothing like that. But they didn't really do too much of this movie. This was all mostly about like the plot of like Ugg and his Universal Council trying to harvest them and save the last egg of the Krites. All right. So we have Terrence Main, who obviously played Ugg, and Don Keith Hooper, who played Charlie, have appeared in all 4 films. So they actually did legit appear in all 4 films, even though Ugg, technically in number 3, he wasn't in the whole movie, but he was at the ending credits, which I like how they just redid for the 4th movie. You didn't even have to watch those ending credits, brother. Little did I know, because when we did the review last week, I was like, I watched it on Tubi, and the fucking Tubi didn't let me finish the whole scene. I was like, well, fuck, I got to talk about what happened to everything. Little did I know they just repeated everything on the 4th movie. So it said the footage of the cargo ship and the docking with the spaceships are from Android, like I said earlier. But the footage of Ugg's ship at the end are taken from Critters 2, the main course. There you go, brother. Stealing from all the movies now. There are mostly only 2 critters in this movie, and the second one gets a haircut from a laser rifle. In order to separate the looks from both critters, there's an obvious reference to Critters 2, the main course, where the one critter gets a similar haircut from a lesser rifle held by a bounty hunter. So that's how they would want you to tell the difference. They're showing the audience that we have a bigger budget than we do by having the 2 critters look a little different, so we can show that there's like more than just one, that they're just like all around the place. So I do like this part. And if you guys are wrestling fans like me and Allison are, like, I wish I could talk to Allison about this, because what it says over here is like something that reminds me of something that happened in like wrestling. All right. So it says no explanation is given for Ugg's switch from hero to villain in the film. Oh, where have I seen that before? All right. Heel turns in wrestling. Don Keith Hooper has confirmed that Ugg becoming a villain had been planned from the beginning. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Of script writing from Critters 3 and 4. All right. But was unsure why no explanation was given. It just happens, bro. It was booked. That's why it was given. The most common explanation supported by fans of the series is that its initial brings Ugg's character full circle. In the first movie, he was a ruthless mercenary who only followed orders, but slightly warmed to humanity over the course of the film, leading to accepting Charlie as an equal and a fellow bounty hunter like himself and Lee. In the second film, Ugg is much friendlier with his companions, but is devastated by the death of Lee and begins shutting himself off from emotions, leaving Charlie on an Earth rather than taking bounty hunting. The apparent loss of Charlie for 50 years took what was left of Ugg's compassion, and by the time he met Charlie again, he has risen to the top of the Terra Corp and cares nothing for anyone, even Charlie, and is motivated solely by greed. So what do y'all think? I think that fan explanation makes sense, because we did see a lot of transition with this character. You know what I mean? Like, they're right. Like, at the beginning of he was just a mercenary. He was just, he's kind of like Boba Fett. You know what I mean? You pay the guy and he'll come get your target, But then when he went to Earth, I guess, the kid that was in the first movie and Charlie kind of like really warmed his alien heart. Okay, and there's also the rocker guy that he transformed into, maybe kind of warmed his soul to Earth and the people of him. He took a liking to Charlie, brought him to space. But that does make sense, because, they were a strong, cohesive unit, Ugg and Lee were. And then when Lee, died by the Krait's hands and stuff, when he was about to turn into Rocky, I believe it was, or Rambo, one of the two, that did devastate him. Maybe he was like shut down for a long time, during that movie. And then obviously, he left Charlie on Earth like to give him the sheriff position and everything. And, he went back to space, and we didn't really, like I said, we didn't really see a transition of his character of grieving when he left Earth. But apparently, like I said before, like he rose to the ranks and everything, and it was his duty to pretty much, like, I guess, collect the remaining eggs to maybe harvest it, because I think the overall, like, if you're trying to make this movie look a little more serious, you know what I mean, which I think that they were trying to do a little bit with this film. I think Ugg's plan was to have the eggs, maybe like he wanted to control the crates, you know what I mean, like use it for like a weapon for the TerraCorp, I mean, that's why he didn't want to actually dissolve of it, because at the beginning it was all about capturing them and everything, and keeping them in a colony, and then like he kind of gave Charlie the duty to kill them, but it looks like over time they probably wanted to not wipe out that entire like race or creatures. They wanted to keep them for more power purposes. So I could feel that. I could see the little transition to his character, and like, and to be honest with you, like I said, him when he turned over as a bad guy, to be honest, I didn't really question it too much. Like I was like, okay, well, I mean, I don't need to have like 5 flashback scenes of him turning heel. You know what I mean? Like it kind of it fit his character. I mean, he was a bounty hunter. I mean, they turn all the time. You know what I mean? Like that's, it wasn't, to me, it wasn't too much shocking to see like, oh shit, Ugg's a heel now. I was like, I'm pretty used to it when you can turn without having like to have the most biggest explanation of it. So, but I'd like to see your guys' opinion. Maybe comment below if you're watching here on the YouTubes. If you're watching through podcast means and stuff, just Retro Blood 69. Y'all want to comment on here? I'll read your emails on here. I'm all cool with that. So, but yeah, this one, I think the most interesting part of Critters 4, to be honest with you, is the cast. I mean, it's pretty crazy of like the level of actors that they have in this, like of how they're like very revealed even today. I think the biggest one probably being Angela Bassett as Fran, the female Ripley, I guess she was trying to be on here. You know what I mean? From Alien. I know her from American Horror Story. All right, because obviously I'm a horror guy, so I don't really know her from like all the other fine movies that she's done before. I know she's won, she's been in Time magazine. She's won Academy Awards, 2 Golden Globes awards for her stuff. But yeah, I remember her being in American Horror Story. She played that like witch, the voodoo witch lady. And she's been in a lot of stuff. I mean, Avengers, Wakanda Forever, Boys in the Hood, which I did see that movie. That's a good one that came out in 1999. Just imagine she's doing Critters 4 and then she did Boys in the Hood. Talk about 2 different style movies, huh? They might be a little different, all right, that I'm seeing on here. So yeah, I mean, she's pretty much like actor royalty, very good. She actually was really good in this film. I was like, you could tell like you're a pro. Like if you're doing like one of these, like, you when you sign on to like this particular, entertainment stuff, that's not going to be the most, you're probably not going to win awards or get any awards about it, but it's going to be, it's a job, and you're going to do your best at it. And I thought she did pretty good for going on here and doing her job. Fucking chair. Fuck. The next one we have is obviously who played Albert. All right. The next up is who we played Albert. Al. Of course, we have Brad Dourif, which we all know Brad Dourif for being the voice of Chucky during the Chucky franchise, which you all can check out in our archives. Me and Allison did the first ever Child's Play. So I think I even said it during that episode, I'm not like the biggest Chucky guy. I respect the legacy of Chucky, and I like what he's done and everything, but I've never been the big Chucky guy. But Brad over here, I mean, obviously it's a very iconic voice. He's been in a bunch of stuff. I think he's mostly known for for Chucky, but he did Alien Resurrection later on here in the 90s. He did Halloween, the remake 2007, and its sequel 2009, the Rob Zombie ones. He was in Deadwood, which is a very popular HBO show, which I didn't get to finish, but I was enjoying it a lot. So, like I said, another guy who has a very fantastic Academy Award winning career. And here we go. He's in Critters 4, brother. Home video. All right. So, and obviously we got Terrence Main back. We talked about him. He's in all 4 of these movies with Don Keep Hooper. Another one I want to talk about too is Dr. McCormick. All right. Annie Resume. All right. She was also another one who was nominated for best. Another person that was nominated and a Screen Actors Guild Award nominated for best assembled in a comedy series. All right. So we have a lot of these actors on here that would go on to have very Academy Awarding careers on here, which is pretty cool. Anders Hove, Captain Rick, the fucking German looking dude. All right, here's another one that let's see what we got here. He's done a couple things on here too. He's on a couple of Tales from the Crypt episode. All right, he's done a couple. Let me see if I got this one here. Yeah, he would do the Bloodlust, Subspecies 3, Bloodstone, Subspecies 2, Subspecies. He was in that whole franchise over there. So I remember seeing him through a couple things too. He looked pretty familiar when I saw him on here. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy to think like that level of actors were in like this small little budget home video about a franchise that's in its fourth installment. The Critters franchise so far has been pretty interesting to me, having the debut of Leonardo DiCaprio on there, and then this one having just a bunch of like pretty level A style, actors and actresses. It's pretty impressive. A pretty impressive series for our little Critters movies out here. So I think that's why they're kind of finally remembered by. And obviously, after this movie, we do have a reboot of the Critters series. I haven't seen it. We're not really going to talk about it too much on this show. And then there was a web series too. And I heard they both didn't really quite live up to the legacy, unfortunately. So that's how it goes sometimes when we try to reboot stuff. But it's still a franchise that's still going on there to this day. So, but I say let's talk about it, everybody. Let's get in to my review of Critters 4.
You've seen them wreak havoc on Earth.
Hairballs.
Those 2 eggs are the last 2 eggs. You are instructed to place the eggs in the plot.
The last 2 eggs were launched into orbit.
It won't scan. I can't tell you what's inside.
And now they're having a blast.
He's going for the pod.
In outer space.
That's the Critters! I'm a bounty hunter.
You've been floating around in that pod for over half a century.
The killer hairballs have relocated.
I got him!
Congratulations, Charlie. You have just murdered the ship.
Get another ship.
It's the only ship, you idiot!
And have a new place to play.
What are these?
Those are eggs. They've been busy.
They're dining from an all-new menu of cosmic cuisine.
You know those, man-eating hairballs that you do not believe in? They are real close.
I'm leaving.
But they'd rather eat on Earth.
I propose that we just hole up here and wait for them to come rescue us.
Albert, company!
Hey,
Where are the eggs?
you do not come in here with your goddamn stormtroopers.
Someone must cooperate.
I hear you wanted these?
The eggs.
These are the last ones.
Critters 4. They're invading your space.
Chill out, asshole.
All right, everybody. So picking up where we left off. All right. This is when we get the same exact scene that we got from Critters 3 into this movie, just a little bit more expanded. Because, if you all watched it, Critters 3, like they would show Charlie walking, but then they would pause it and give the credits. So it was kind of like walk it, pause. This one was just kind of like the full thing. So right before Charlie's about to destroy the eggs, Ugg comes in here, tells them that they need the correct eggs. He's doing a hologram message like you would see in Star Wars. All right. And he tells them that the eggs are the last 2 eggs on the existence, so he needs to avoid destroying them, and it would go against the intergalactic law. That's right. Intergalactic law doesn't want you to kill these correct eggs that have been terrorizing the Earth. All right. So Charlie, he was always taught and taught how to destroy the eggs, but he doesn't do it. So he gives into the orders. He places the eggs in this this pod. All right. And then because he's a klutz, falls into the pod and then into the sky. And then while doing that, however, the hatch closes on him and Charlie is launched into the space, becoming deep frozen in the process. All right. So it's kind of like, when Boba Fett froze Han Solo. Yeah. See, maybe Critters 4 and Star Wars are in the same universe. I mean, it could be. I don't see why not. It's a big galaxy out there, brother. All right. So now we're over a half of a century later. We're in 2045. All right. 2045 for all you wanted me to say it like that. So we're on the crew of the salvage ship RSS Tesla. I wonder if it's owned by Elon Musk. What do you think, guys? RSS Tesla? I mean, I could see him making a spaceship in 2045, brother. Okay. And it might have the exact same crew on here. How am I supposed to know? All right, but I can see it happening. All right, so he finds the pod in the deep space and they bring it aboard. So basically, this is when we kind of meet the crew on here. Let me pull up my crew names on here. So we meet Fran, which is Angela Bassett's character. She's kind of like the tough space woman. You know what I mean? Like Ripley and stuff. We meet Albert, Chucky voice. He is kind of like the science nerd, or he knows how to do all the technical shit in the spaceship. We meet Ethan, which is kind of like the random kid that's there for some reason. And then we meet Captain Rick Butterram, which is like this guy that I don't know where. The only thing that looked like he was going to be piloting was a pirate ship. I don't know where he didn't act like a captain or nothing at all. It was super strange. All right. So we meet kind of them. We can see that. So the story, a little bit of stories about Ethan is basically he's counting down the days until they could go back home, which maybe I skipped it or something. I'm not sure if home was Earth to them, even though they're all human. It could have been some other place. But he's kind of counting by days where everybody's kind of like resting in a way. So now they're getting they're kind of like on their path to bring back stuff so they can get a reward for it. But this is when they intersect the pod. Okay. And they intercept the pod, and all right, and then the ship, they get a communication from Counselor Tetra of Terracor, all right, who offers Butterram, the space pirate guy. I don't think he was a space pirate, but that's what I kept seeing about it. He looked like a German Austria like space pirate to me. All right. And he was offered him 3 times the going rate if he brings the pod to the nearby station. So they were already, like I said before, they were already on a job where they were going to get some money. But the Terracor was offering to reverse course and go to their station, their nearby station, to deliver that pod that they found. Okay. Now, the crew, like Nathan and stuff, he didn't want to take it because he wanted to get home. Like I said, he was counting down the days, and this is going to get him off course. So there's a little tension, but then Butter Ram, he pretty much accepts it because he wants the money, brother. That space coin is hard to get, brother. All right. Well, it's not like he's out there fucking selling what do they call it? Sand? What was the Doom thing? Oh God. Well, it was a sand, right? No, it was salt. God, spice. That's what it was. It's fucking spice. They're out there spelling spice, brother. All right, they gotta get their money as they can get it. All right, so the crew accepted. They started to go to the station, only to find that the facility is abandoned. So they walk on the station. This is when we get half the movies on the station. Okay, this is when we get all the cool looking 90s sci-fi looking backgrounds and stuff. So that I appreciate it. So they're looking around. The only sign of life being the station is the central computer named Angela. All right, and to basically Angela disobeys all their orders unless they say the opposite. So I can't be like, hey Angela, give me all the access to all the quarters. Oh, I can't do that. But then Al was like, he figured out like, well, if I give her what not to do, then I'll make him what I want it to do. Hey, Angela, don't give me all the access to the quarters. Okay, now I have access to all the quarters. All right. So after a while, we have some of the crew kind of like exploring around. We get a quick shot of Butter Ram staring down Cran when she's in the shower, acting like he's going to go get some, and then he gets punched. We have Al figuring out all the mechanisms to get this station up and running. All right, we have Ethan, not really want to be here, but he's kind of like looking around. And then later we have Ethan later stumbles upon Rick tampering with the pod. Okay, Rick saying that he plans to take whatever is inside for himself and leave the others behind. So this is the captain, Rick Betterham. Okay, so after he got butthurt by Fram, not wanting to give him some space sex, all right, he got all pissed off and he started to shoot the pod. All right, and this is when Ethan finds him, and this is when he expresses what's going to happen. All right, so eventually Rick knocks him unconscious and a fire extinguisher before he manages to open the pod. Okay, so obviously Ethan didn't like what he was saying, but Rick knocked him out, and then eventually Rick opened the pod. And this is in the pod. Charlie comes out. He quickly jumps out and everything, and Rick is like, "You can't be the only one that's in this fucking pod." And then Charlie's like, "Oh man, what's going on?" He's like, "Oh shit, I'm in space, aren't I?" All right. And then this is when we have the Krite eggs, which weren't even like called anything. Were they even called Krites in this movie? I don't remember them saying Krites. Like, I don't remember them saying Krites after like number 2. So I don't know. In my review, I call them critters, Krites, whatever they want to be. So the Krites, they start fleeing now. Okay. And they basically, they hatch and they start tearing Rick apart. So they start biting him and stuff. This one, like, wasn't as gruesome as some of the other, I guess, critter movies are. But I guess maybe number 2 is probably the most gruesome one. They're not really like, I don't think these movies are designed to be like bloody and gory and stuff. You know what I mean? So, so now the creature, they're flee. All right. Charlie eventually revives Ethan and explains to him who he is. And then Charlie and Ethan meet up with the rest of the crew. So Charlie explains who he is, and he warns about the crew of the Krites and stuff. Like he's saying, like, I'm from Earth. I've been fighting these Krites things. I was supposed to hand them off to the Terra Corps and stuff. I got lost in the pod, and that's how I'm here. All right. But this is when Bernie refuses to believe him, and then they head off. So that they think he might be in on it, like not who he says he is. All right, so now Ethan he finds a computer card. He finds some earlier access and reports made by Dr. McCormick. All right, who reveals that she was conducting research on various alien organisms for use of bioweaponry. So that's what they wanted to do. Like I said at the beginning, that's a little bit probably why Ugg turned heel, is because they wanted to use these crates to use as weapons. Because if y'all have seen sci-fi horror movies like I have, that is probably the either number one or number two reason why these space companies take monsters and creatures to use them as bioweapons. Okay. So after they find all about this, they said that her creations, however, could not be reproduced on their own, and she requested finding a suitable organism capable of rapid reproduction, which is obviously the crates can do that. They can reproduce themselves immensely. So after realizing what has been going on board the station, Albert strongly suggests they all leave and immediately. So after they find about all this news and stuff, Albert's like, let's get the fuck out of here, brother. I ain't gonna mess with this bioweapon. Y'all seen Resident Evil? Yeah, y'all. That's what Albert's like. Y'all seen Resident Evil? We gotta get out of here. All right. Resident Evil is in the same year. Or wait, no. I think Resident Evil came out in 94. But y'all can fact check me on that. So later, Bernie is attacked and killed by the critters in the station's pharmacy because he was trying to sneak out a bunch of pills. For some reason, who knows? It wasn't explained, but I guess he was trying to get a little high. After other responders remain, Angela announces that the reactor is leaking and radiation will go through within critical hours. So to me, what's kind of interesting about this Critters 4 movie, there's actually not a whole lot of like critter action in this movie. It's more about like this story of like the Terror Corps trying to get the crate eggs and make them for bio. Like we find like more about history of a little bit more history about like more like the space portion of what they want these crate eggs for, compared to having like crate. I think this is my guess. I don't have this confirmed anywhere, but I think my guess, they wanted to make this Critters 4, like they wanted to make it a little bit like an Alien spinoff. You know what I mean? Like we have the crew who is on a space journey, cryo chamber for like 25 years or whatever. They're on a certain mission to find certain things, but then there's something that averts them to find something else. And then they find something else that is a lot more dangerous than they thought it would have been. And then there's a reason for that. Like it's very similar to like it's kind of like I think they definitely had the first Alien in mind when they were making this movie. And there's a obviously, besides the Star Wars references in this film, like Ugg and the getting the telegram like he's like, Princess Leia. And then we obviously have a Stormtrooper reference here later on. I think they really were looking at like an Alien plot and a Star Wars plot in this film. They kind of like mirror those. All right. So let's see. All right. Okay. So now, after the crew members find Bernie's remains, Angela announces that the reactor is leaking. Radiation will go within critical hours and starts sealing off sections of the station. The crew later discovers a clutch of freshly laid crate eggs and learn that the crites are breeding. All right, what does that remind you of? Aliens too. All right. Meanwhile, the crites make their way to the Tesla and program the ship to head to the nearest inhabited planet, which is Earth. Course. One crate goes to retrieve the eggs while the rest prepare the ship for takeoff. The crew then arrives and encounters the crites, upon which Charlie shoots and kills them, only to inadvertently destroy the flights controlled in the process. So Charlie was shooting up the place, all right, trying to stop these crates because remember he's a bounty hunter and everything, and then he eventually kills the ship. All right. There was a scene in here. I don't remember when it actually happened, but I think it was like around this period and I thought this was a pretty good line that kind of went under the radar a little bit. So the crew informed Charlie that he is about like 25, 30 years from when he first was, in the Earth or whatever. Or maybe it might have been longer than that. Like they said he was in cryo freeze for a long time. So pretty much everybody that he knew on Earth was dead. And Charles like, oh fuck, man! Like everybody I've ever met was dead. So he had this really like come to like realization moment that like he is like all alone in a way, and besides being this new crew, because everybody he met on Earth, or family, friends, or whatever, they've been dead for centuries. So I thought that was pretty crazy. So now the crew is all trying to repair the ship. Ethan's heads off to hunt down the last crate himself because he's all pissed. All right, he's trying to take action to himself. By the way, I think one funny part about this movie is like they're all supposed to be like these like space travelers and stuff. They don't wear any uniforms. They look like they went to like the local like 1990s Kmart and just picked out a bunch of clothes and just were wearing them around the ship. It was like I'm not really sure. Like, what did the budget not have enough for like space clothes? I guess not, brother. There's like they looked at the budget, like, you know what? We got this fucking liquid over here that we need to show. We don't have enough for clothes. Just have them go to the local Kmart, brother. All right. So eventually, Ethan finds some equipment to use in a science lab, and he can see that the crates are like drinking down some of the liquid there, and then they're starting to grow pretty fast. So Ethan goes to warn the others, but just as he does, the TerraCore ship arrives. All right, carrying Tarda, Ugg, and other troopers. So now when they come on there, they start holding all the crew by gun. So at first, Albert and all the crew were like excited about the ship coming to rescue them. But then when they realized it was Ugg turns heel on them and actually puts them at gunpoint. And all Ugg is wanting is he wants the eggs. He doesn't care about this crew or nothing like that. He's not going to pay him. He's not going to do anything. He wants the eggs. All right. And then they won't give up the eggs to him now because they basically turn heel. And this is when Charlie is there. He's like, hey, this is Ugg. He's my friend and stuff. But then he can tell right away that Ugg is not like the one he left, those many years ago. He's a different person now. This is also, too, when we got the Stormtrooper reference in there. So now they're having a little back and forth. This is basically Albert tries to bowl up to him a little bit, and this is when they kill Albert. So he's dead. All right, so now we just have Ethan this is what we have. Charlie and Fran, they're the ones over here that are getting basically cornered by Ugg and his stormtroopers. Okay, and this is when Charlie expressed despair of him and set him alignment, and then Ugg basically just says things change, and he orders his troop to go find the eggs. So Ethan witnesses all this stuff. All right. And he runs back to the science labs and sets up traps, like booby traps for the troops, by having Angela trap them behind sliding doors. But then whereupon the crates were attacked and killed them. Ethan then retrieves 3 of the crate eggs from the tunnel and then he starts going out to where Charlie and Fran were being holded, and he starts to do the little juggling thing. All right, so he just comes out of there and stuff and does the juggling thing while the stormtroopers already been eaten and killed by the remaining Krites, the full grown versions. So Ethan breaks about 2 eggs, all to Ugg's dismay. All right, but then Ethan is also smart. He puts a gun in the back of his pocket. All right, and that gets it for where let's see. He deliberately breaks 2 engaged and threatens to kill Fran, but Ethan tosses the last egg, has a distraction before Fran uses Ethan's revolver to knock Tetra unconscious. Okay, so Fran grabs the revolver, all right, that Charlie had on his back to get Tetra unconscious. Now, and I do like it where they have like the old revolver. Like they have everybody else is a space gun, but then they have one old school revolver from Earth that they all think Charlie is the only one that knows how to use it. So then we have Charlie and Fran. They rush aboard Tetra's ship to escape, but Ethan gets distracted when a crate attacks him, forcing him to freeze it from a fuel house. Tetra suddenly appears and holds him at gunpoint, but Charlie rescues him and shoots Tetra in the head before the survivors manage to escape. Mere seconds before the station explodes. So yeah, there was like a standoff that they did. All right. And then eventually you had Ugg put the gun to Charlie. All right. And then this is when we have Charlie put the gun to Ugg. All right. And then basically Ugg was like, you ain't gonna do it. You don't got the balls to do it. And then they get distracted, and then Charlie does it, shoots him right in the fucking head. So I thought that part was pretty intense. And then all this stuff happens. The ship's about to melt and blow out and stuff. They destroyed the last egg. So they get off the ship now. And they just made it onto the TerraCore ship. And they're all getting out of there. And this is when they're all like, the stationary ship blows up. All right, they all escape, rendering the crates extinct now. And then we have Charlie, Fram, and Ethan finally fly their ship towards Earth. So Ethan will finally get to go to the Earth to maybe see if his dad's there or not. Then it ends the Critters series, at least here on the Retro Blood. You guys can go check out the 2000 versions, but I heard they kind of suck. But everybody, that's it, man. Crazy. I thought this one was pretty fun. It wasn't my favorite one. It was, I don't know, this in space movie, it can kind of go a couple of different ways. I thought the series actually, it made sense for them to actually go in space because it was originally they're from space. So that makes sense. A lot of times we'll have like these random, they just show up in space just to spice things up a little bit. Or go to die, whatever you want to say about it. But I thought this one was pretty fun. I think the crates work a little bit better on Earth. There's a lot more going on. This one was kind of like more of like an alien. It's kind of like an alien where it's like more stationary in one central location. But I thought for like a home video release and stuff, put it on there. Like the level of actors and actresses, I mean, it was incredible with the cast they got here. So I thought it was a pretty fun one. So I don't know if it'd be on my normal rotation, but I thought it was pretty good overall. So, but everybody, thanks for joining us on this quick little review of Critters 4. Me doing a solo show. Hey, got to keep this shit going, brother. But myself and J.H. Allison will get back. Hopefully this Sunday. And this one came out a little late because of all the weather issues and traveling and stuff. But hopefully by this Sunday, myself and Allison will be doing a whole new review and a whole new month because we are coming back for Vampires 3 month. That's right, everybody. We've done this pretty much every year for about the last 3 years. We have done different vampire stories out of the 1980s. This year is no different. We're still doing some of the 1980s vampire movies, but we're also adding in a very famous, probably the most famous vampire movie from the 90s. In here too, we'll be doing that one too. That's a little hint for you guys, but we'll give you the whole full schedule this week coming up. Hopefully we get it, like I said, hope I can get it done by Sunday. And the first movie we're going to be talking about is something we probably should have done before, even though we did the first one. We just never thought about doing the second one for some reason. We are going to be doing Fright Night 2. That's right, everybody. We did the first Fright Night back, I believe it was like 2 years ago. I'm not sure why we didn't do Fright Night 2. I think we just didn't see it. I think we thought it maybe came out in the 90s or something, but it looks like it is an 80s release. But we're going to pick it up from here. So if y'all want to, you could go back in our archives and go listen to Fright Night 1 that we did. I believe it was like about a couple years ago, like 2 years ago. You can find that. You can still find that episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find all of our early shows on Podbeam if you guys ever want to go through there. And I believe we do have that episode on YouTube here as well too. So if y'all want to check that out for a companion piece for our review, hopefully coming up by this Sunday, Fright Night 2. But I want to thank everybody for joining us here on the Retro Blood. Start off the new year with some Critters action. I want to thank you all for listening to me here on the Retro Blood. We appreciate you guys. Hopefully this is going to be a big year for us on the Retro Blood. We got a couple things in store for us. Like I said, the show goes on, man. Weather stuff, travel stuff might get in the way here and there, but we'll always drop an episode. It might not be every Sunday, but we'll always drop an episode. So I appreciate you guys liking us. Subscribe to the Retro Blood. The more it helps, it just helps everything. Do a review on here. Tell us we suck. Tell us I missed everything. The points of Critters 4. Tell them I didn't see the flying ghost that was supposed to be the background. Tell us we're good. Tell us we're bad. We don't care. We appreciate you guys listening to us. And check us out here next week on the Retro Blood, where we continue some vampire stories with Fright Night 2. J.H. Allison, James Kline. We'll see y'all later on the Retro Blood.